Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second instalment of the Gorilla-man podcast. How are we going?
Perfect. I'm doing great.
Good. Well, thank you very much for listening to last week's episode, everyone. If you haven't already, then you're going to have to click back because a lot of this won't make sense. Thank you for coming on the podcast for the second time in, as an hour, I suppose. For most people, it's been a week.
No, trust me. I'm just wearing the same shirt. It's been a week. I mean, you got a hat on. It's completely different.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. Same shirt as well, but a different hat or a new hat. So, in the last episode, obviously, we spoke about, your balancing and all the rest of it, and you gave a little tutorial, a little show and tell for the listeners. So if you want to work on your balance, again, jump back into next week's episode. And if you aren't watching it on YouTube, watch it on YouTube because it's a full tutorial with video. Obviously you mentioned towards the end about obviously the sibling rivalry, and that was probably the main reason that you stuck at parkour. Did your brothers also stick with it, or are they?
So my oldest brother is 10 years older than I am. So when I started, he was 24 at the time. So he was already in his adult life and married, and parkour was not in his mind. So he never actually did it. He came in every once in a while when he came to visit us, because he lived in Florida. We lived in Florida for a while, which trees in Florida are amazing to climb. So go back to the last episode to watch me talk about tree climbing. But so we actually moved all the way to Oregon, which, if you don't know the difference between where that is, this is Florida.
Right.
This is Oregon.
Right.
Up here. So we moved a pretty significant distance away.
East to west.
East to west. And that's actually a funny story that I actually love to tell people. My mom wanted to get out of Florida. I hate Florida now. I don't even want to go there. But my family still lives there, so I have to go there every once in a while. But my older brother stayed, my sister stayed, and then my older brother, Alex, who's a couple years older than me, and my mom, we moved to Oregon. My mom just wanted to move somewhere different, so she did a very strange thing that worked out perfectly. She threw a dart at a map and it hit Bend, and that's where I've been for the last 17 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Was she any good at darts, or it was just a blind throw?
It was no, she's not good at darts. I guess she's good at luck. And we got to a place that was actually at the time the #1 growing city in America.
Right.
And it has been it still is. It's like the population here has changed significantly over the last 10 years. It used to be a small mountain town. Now it's a big tourist attraction.
So what's your favorite part about living there?
I love mountains. For this specific place, I've really grown into just doing adventure type stuff, hiking. I'm not a big snowboarder. I don't like snow sports, so I don't actually go to the mountain at all for that specific reason. But if you go Bend, Oregon, or where I actually live is Redmond, because the housing market in Bend is terrible. So my wife and I ended up buying 20 minutes north of Bend last year. And so no matter where we go, if we go an hour south, an hour east, hour west, an hour north, no matter where we go, we're either going to find 5 waterfalls, mountains to climb, probably 3 or 4 hot springs. There's a lot to do in this little area here. And so that's probably my favorite part, is being able to see nature and do things that most people don't get to do if you live in a city or something like that. Like just be able to go outside, take a big, deep breath, and literally smell nature instead of smelling gases or fumes or anything like that. And generally, the people here are quite nice. And it is a small town. Like in Bend or in Redmond, if I'm doing parkour outside, I had people come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're the parkour guy." Um, a lot of people assume that like with parkour, you have uh like going on like rooftops and things like that, trespassing, that we might not have a good relationship with law enforcement. For many years I didn't really allow rooftops. If I found out any of my students went on a roof, I would actually have them suspended from the gym, because it's trespassing. It can injure you.
Hmm.
Um, and unfortunately, I did just break that rule. Like 2 months ago, I saw a challenge. I was like, shoot, I have to do that, and I actually did it. But I got right back down. Um, but because it's such a small town, I know most of the law enforcement here, and so if somebody calls the cops on us for something that we're doing, I don't know what, um, maybe it's just a big group of people jumping on something that they think isn't supposed to be jumped on. I'll get the cops called and they'll come up and be like, "Oh, you're the parkour guy," and I'm like, "Yeah." And they usually know that I'm pretty respectful to the community, and they'll just say, "You're good. I don't know what that lady or that person was talking about. Um, just keep doing what you're doing. We'll let them know that there's not an issue." And
Yeah,
so having
perfect.
that small town community definitely is one of my favorite parts about being out here.
Yeah, yeah, good. So when you first started the gym, then how did you get the sort of word out there that that the Gorilla Man had started a gym?
Oh, I wasn't Gorilla Man at the time.
Were you
I started
floaty?
the gym in 2015.
And you were
Uh,
floaty at the time.
what was that?
And you were floaty at the time then.
I was floaty at the time.
Okay.
Um, and so I actually, so I was lucky. My at the time in 2015, I needed funding, and my dad is he trains thoroughbred horses. He was a jockey growing up, and that's also where I get some of my athleticism from. Is he was like a high ranking jockey in the world for horse racing, and so he stuck to that, and he's still a horse. He still trains horses. He has a pretty successful stable at the current moment, but at the time everything was a little rocky. And he had one like really big race, and uh, luckily he funded my the beginning of my gym. He gave me a couple grand, and that was enough to get me started. And so I owe all my thanks to my parents for helping me get to the point where I am at now. So I started in 2015 with this really ambitious idea that I was going to have a super successful business and a super successful gym. I was going to teach people what I love, and it took about 6 years for me to find out that it's hard to get successful. Um, yeah, so it didn't really turn into a career until about 6 years in. Otherwise, before that, I was still working jobs and doing other things that got me to the point where the gym is being ran and is able to run itself. But it wasn't paying me. It was just my passion, and I wanted to continue it. And so that I stuck to it for that reason. Um, and then yeah, so that's where the whole gym thing started. I did enjoy teaching. I still enjoy teaching. I love seeing the mechanics of people and what they're doing wrong. I like to be able to see like split second decisions on like movement and be like, okay, do this, and I guarantee this will fix the thing that you're doing. And it's a cool ability to have. It's just like if I see a jump and I'm like, okay, I could do that, so I'll do it. I won't even look at it. I'll just do it, because I know what my body's capable of. And over the years, I've gotten really good at figuring out what people's abilities are, judging somebody else's abilities more than what they know. And as long as they trust me and I'm there to help them, they can get to an incredible level. They just have to trust that I know what I'm talking about. And that's been one of the most fulfilling things I've had in recent years, of realizing that I have that ability to get people to a certain level with little pieces of advice and tips that I've gained over the years.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean that I keep making the parallel in jiu-jitsu, for myself.
Yeah, no,
We
that makes
went
sense.
through a fundamentals class this weekend, just gone, and that was exactly the same thing that my professor was saying. That he learnt from his professor, and then he takes what he's learned and then adjusts it slightly to then teach us. So we're getting a better way of doing certain roles, or a certain choke or whatever it is. And he said, and then you'll take it, and if you get to the dizzy heights of black belt, then you start your own gym, and it's the same again. And then you'll be like, oh, actually this bit works, and there'll be little movements. But you'll also teach the other way. So then you're getting a different perspective of you're getting 3 different inputs into the same choke essentially, but 3 different ways to either to get there, or slight variations in it. Like you said, there'll be like a little bit, like a literal centimeters in it, and it would just make that choke so much worse for your opponent. So I understand exactly what you're saying there, and that does come with experience, and it definitely comes from someone knowing their craft, and it's the sign of a good teacher in my eyes as well.
And I think one of the most beneficial things of teaching over the years was, and I tell this to anyone who I hire, and it's actually one of the cool things is most of my employees that I have currently, they're actually not most, all of them are former students, kids that I've been working with since they were children, not even teenagers, since they were under 13 years old, and they've learned from me, they've understand who I am and what I'm trying to express to our students. And it's really cool to see that generational teaching continue to move on. But one of the really main things that I make sure to mention is that like there's something completely different that people don't realize when you become a teacher, especially for what we do, is when you're teaching people to do a specific technique. Maybe somebody's doing a safety roll wrong, and you're like, okay, do this. And it's funny because it clicks, because then you realize, wait, I've been doing that. And then you fix it in yourself. So usually when you're teaching it, you're not only analyzing their movements, but then you go and cross-reference it to your own movement, and you're able to teach yourself in a way. And it does help you improve your skill level significantly by helping others.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say again, like my professor always alludes to that. He's like, as he's teaching, he's like, he can see him doing that movement, and it's very much the same. And like I say, like the building blocks for it. You mentioned earlier about obviously the levels within it, and that you can take a parkour athlete to the different levels within it. How do the levels in the sport work? Is there like regional competitions? Like how does that sort of stuff work?
So, okay, competitions were not a super popular thing in the very beginning, of course, because parkour wasn't a big deal. 2009, there was the Red Bull Art of Motion Vienna, and I'm pretty sure that was the first one. That was where a lot of the big name parkour athletes really got their big names from, because that competition was uh, foundational, basically. Like that was the start of all parkour competition. So Red Bull continued to put on art emotions throughout the last 14 years now, and that they're still doing them. And art emotions are a free running competition. So you might notice that when you see people talk about parkour, there's these 2 factions. There's parkour, there's free running. Parkour would be A to B in the quickest, most efficient way. It's more of actual just pure movement. And then you have free running, which is, if you watch any of my videos, you'll notice I have both of these types of things. One of them is purely I do jumps, I work on landings, I swing on stuff. And then there's the free running side of things where I will do flips and spins and linking stuff together really smoothly. And so that would be the flow side. So you have A to B in the quickest, most efficient way. And then you have A to Z, but all the way back to B and T and however you want to do it. It's just back and forth in basically playing. And that's one of my favorite things to tell people is that parkour is literally just play. We are teaching you how to play correctly. or that you're just playing correctly. You see the world as a playground.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different iterations that you could go with that too. Like one of my other ones I use quite often, and this is true if you're an artist, parkour is an art form. So we're just the paintbrush and the world is our canvas.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just paint the world.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying about that, like I say, I know nothing about parkour, free running. Like, it's all sort of the same thing. But what you were
Right.
saying then and how you're explaining it is like, in the like competitions and stuff like that, and with the free running, is that used as like I'm only relating it to like gymnastics, obviously within the Olympics where, you know, they're doing their tumbles, whatever, and they have to link, everything links together. Do you know what I mean? When they're doing stuff, is that the same
Right.
in parkour? Or are you sort of marked down for if it's you know a bit off or?
So it is very so okay. Sorry, I got off a little bit and forgot about what I was talking about.
It's all right. It's fine.
So then after so long, art of motion became a thing, and that was the free running side of things. And then SPL happened. SPL is the Sport Parkour League. It used to be the North American Parkour Championships. And essentially, they had 3 different categories. They had freestyle, which is the free running side of stuff. They had speed, which is just basically you go through a course as fast as possible. That's A to B as quick as and efficient as possible. And then there's skills. And basically each one of those categories is what you'll see at most parkour competitions. The Sport Parkour League is now like the World Parkour Cup, basically. That's where you'll find all the top athletes of the world, and they throw down. They're incredible athletes. I feel like I'm a pretty high level athlete, but if this is where I'm at, they're here. They're significantly they're just nuts. A lot of them are just crazy. And so they have a freestyle competition where I've judged freestyle competitions before. And it's based off of and everyone is a little bit different. When I do freestyle competitions, usually we're judging based off of everything. So execution, creativity, flow, and difficulty. And then so we're taking all those things into account and we're giving it a score 0 out of 10. And then usually in 0.5 increments. So like if I saw someone do an amazing flow line, and this is also where style comes into play. So like me, I love technical movement, but I also love linking stuff together and using the entire space. Whereas if somebody does 3 flips and they run between each thing, I'm going to score them super low because they didn't link it together. I don't care how crazy the flip was. I wanted to see your original style. And so it varies by the person who's judging as well. Now, there are other ways that they've done judging where they had one judge for creativity, one judge for execution, one judge for difficulty, and one judge for flow. And then so they take all of those scores and then they put them together, and then it makes a score from 1 to 30. And then they're usually like 0.92s and things like that. And they have some kind of system that does that. Now with speed, they have a set course. There's usually different types of courses depending on the competition that you go to. So like there are regional competitions. We just held one last year. It's called the West Coast Parkour Championships. And of course, it's throughout the West Coast. They had 13 qualifiers and then a finals event in LA. And I actually hosted one of the qualifiers. So I got to go behind the scenes in seeing how these competitions are ran and like what goes into them. My goal for the competition was to make it as strange as possible. I wanted it to be completely different than everybody else. And it was like, people were like, that was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was different. So with speed courses, I had to do 3 different types of things. I had to do, one of them had to be hot lava. So you can't touch the ground on the course. One of them had to be touch points, which is basically you have 5 different areas you have to touch as quickly as possible and then get back to the timer. And then we had sprint, which is basically you just go as fast as you can straight through something and then back. And my goal was to just make it weird. Everything was strange. Nothing was the same that anyone had ever done. And then usually with the bigger competitions, it's just You go through a course as fast as possible. There's no specific category. You could touch the ground. You could do whatever you want. You just got to go as quickly as possible through this set route. And then with skill is usually the bigger competitions. They have 4 different days. Each day is a different type of skill challenge. So one day that they're going to have 5 different challenges you have to complete in 3 minutes. They're going to have the next day, you're going to have 30 challenges you have to complete in under 20 minutes, but everybody's going at the same exact time. They have like 5 challenges and who can complete it the fastest. And then they have like 5 challenges. Each person gets 3 attempts per challenge and to see who can do it. And each of these challenges are like pure skill based. There's no flip or nothing related. It's about landing correctly. It's about showing the proper technique of the skill and doing like a route of these skills. That's actually my favorite category. Even though I'm not the best at it, it's still one of my favorite categories to compete in and to come up with, because it's a cool thing to like basically be. I think of it as like a video game. I'm thinking, okay, what nutty person's coming into this competition that I want to see do that challenge? And I'll just come up with crazy challenges and somehow people will do them. And it's really entertaining to watch. And so that's usually how these competitions work. With the West Coast Parkour Championships, if you place in their competition in any one of the categories, you can move on to the regionals competition, which is in Denver, Colorado. And then that gets you to USAPK. And there are regional competitions throughout all the US that you can go to USAPK. And if you go to USAPK and you place there, then you go to the Sport Parkour League, which is the world competition. Now, I talked about US, but with the Sport Parkour League, they actually have qualifiers in Europe as well as in the US. And I think they're going to be putting more qualifiers throughout the world this next year to make sure the competition is even more great. That's one of the best competitions in the world, in my opinion. Now, you talked about gymnastics a little bit. So gymnastics for a few years, and it's still an ongoing thing. So FIG is the Federation International Gymnastics thing. Basically, they're actually trying to take over parkour. Essentially, they're trying to put it into the Olympics, but they want to put their own ruling to it. They're trying to make it less free, I guess would be the right way to put it. So they have these really big competitions, and the reason why people are competing in it, parkour is, if you want to be a professional parkour athlete, you're either going to have to get sponsors or win a lot of competitions to make a living. It's really hard because parkour is not like super big yet. It might be bigger, but it's not where like skateboarding is or anything like that. So some of these competitions, they pay significantly more for their athletes, which the gymnastics competitions, they do pay pretty well for their athletes because the corporation is just big. But their judging styles, I can't go into depth on it because I don't really know how it works myself. All I know is that they've had a lot of critiquing over the years to figure out how the judging works. They have a lot of high level athletes, but from my experience, I've seen people win those competitions where they shouldn't have won. And it was purely because they just linked things together. They did a lot of the same moves. They had a longer line, but their line wasn't more difficult. So throughout the years, the parkour athletes who have been in those competitions have helped to finalize how they do the judging for those competitions. And it's definitely better, but there's still like this really big divide between parkour community and FIG. And like, we are not gymnastics is one of those trending things that the parkour community puts out. Like, you might see it in some parkour people, hashtag we are not gymnastics. It's because we're not. We're more free form. Gymnastics is very by the book, and they basically it definitely makes it very difficult to do parkour if we're going off of gymnastics criteria.
Yeah, definitely.
basically the entire competition scene.
Right. Okay. So you're saying there about obviously the 13 qualifiers up and down on the West Coast.
Yeah.
How many how many athletes do you get at each qualifier?
Each one varies. Most of the competitions, especially the finals for that entire corporation, is in California, and so it depends where you live. California gyms, they usually get a significantly more athletes competing in each of their qualifiers, but they only take so many people. So I think it's like only 10 people per qualifier go to the finals. And then you can also, even if you qualified for another competition, you can still go to another qualifier to try to qualify for that, for finals again, or just get league points. Because no matter what, how you do each competition, you'll get more points that will give you overall standings for the finals. So, like my buddy Rylan Mount, he's he's a parkour athlete from here in Oregon as well, and he's an incredible athlete. And the last 3 years running, or 2 years running, he has taken the overall championship as a 18 plus men's athlete. And basically, what that means is he had the most points in skill, speed, and freestyle competitions that all accumulated into him being first place on the West Coast. And so you asked the like attendance or how many people actually participate. I don't have those exact numbers, but I would say in total for all the qualifiers, you got close to 1,000 people who actually try. And then at the finals, we have probably about I want to say 250 people who are competing, and these aren't actually just adults; these are kids as well, because they actually have kids brackets as well. So they're this year they're doing 6 to 8, they're doing 9 to 11, they're doing 11 to 12, or no, 10 to 12, and then they're doing 13 to 15, 16 to 18, and then so on and so forth. And this is actually the first year that this is, I think, the first competition that they've ever had a masters division where they have 35 plus as well.
Right. I'm encroaching on that now, so if I get a bit of training in.
Actually, no, that's actually the funny thing. Most people, I actually love to ask yes. I see that we're dropping down on that time, so I'll make sure to talk fast. Most people get this wrong. How old do you think I am?
I would say early 30s.
Early 30s. All right, that's fine.
30, I would say similar age to me, about 34, 35.
I am 29.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think it's the lack of the hair on top.
The hair.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And even since I was 16 years old, people thought I was in my 30s, even before I had facial hair. And now I ask parents and kids all the time, like, how old do you think I am? And some people think I'm in my 40s. So that was also one of the really important things that I noticed when all my videos started going viral, is people were like, whose dad is this? Like, okay, technically I could be a dad at 29, but at the same time, people think I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
But I'm actually not. I just look old.
When I first came across you, I did think that you're probably touching into your 40s. I was trying to do quick, when you asked me, well, as soon as you asked me, I was like, right, when did he say he's this age at that age? And I was just like, all right, 30s has got to be in and around then. But you do definitely look a lot older than you are. No disrespect.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I've been getting it for years, so it's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose it's good as well in that you've got the body of a 29-year-old, that you're not too bashed up or whatnot. But yeah, you have that.
I would say I have the body of a 40-year-old, but the joints of a 29-year-old.
Yeah, but you look like you've got more experience than you probably have as well. Like you could have been in the game for 10 more years.
Right.
But yeah, so. What else do you want to talk about? What else do you want to bring to the table? It's the floor. The floor is yours.
I'll tell you one thing. A lot of people think that I'm big on social media and influencing and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually not. Over the last couple of years, I've been getting a lot of a lot of viral videos, and I don't know why. Honestly, like I tell people this constantly. I I know a lot of people who are more impressive skill wise and have a better um like I feel like they would do better for the amount of following that I have. And it's, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying I'm not happy I have this huge following and anything like that, but I will say that I believe there are other people who deserve what I have gotten way more than me. And since I'm not trying to become a influencer or anything like that, or I might, I don't know, I have no idea yet. Um, I wish that other people, like when I go to share somebody else on my social media, that they would go to follow them, because they'll get the same exact material from them that they're getting from me. Now, something that I've realized that's kind of funny. I recently had a video where I was jumping up stuff and then I bounced off a roof and then did a roll. And that's my more recent video that went viral. This is actually a funny thing. I ended up I ended up going viral for not parkour reasons. So if anybody goes to follow my account, find the video where it looks like I'm sticking on a wall in in a red shirt and black shorts, because I guarantee you're gonna have a kick of all the comments that are there. About 80% of the comments on that video are about my ass.
I was going to say you've
I
got some junk in the trunk.
I have so many people who followed me from that video. I went up 40,000 followers, and I want to say probably 20,000 of them is because I got junk in the trunk.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you're saying about that and on the skill level, and there is people out there that, are far more skilled and all the rest of it, but it's you as a person as well. Like, you're a very likable character. You're very, like you said earlier, you could be someone's dad, and again, I'm not taking the mick or anything like that, but you do have a dad bod.
yep.
And I think that, just that, because you're such a wholesome guy, you're a really nice guy. Obviously, we've been speaking for an hour and 20 minutes now, or a bit longer with obviously the pre-show, and you are just a really genuine guy, and you're a nice guy, and people do tend to attract to that. They don't want the person that can do everything at a 10 out of 10 and that show off and all the rest of it like that. Like, you being who you are and true to yourself is what resonates with people, and that's, I would say, that's, and obviously having the junk in the trunk, but that I would say that is what resonates with people. That obviously you've put the work in, you've done your 15 years and all the rest of it, but it just shows people that it doesn't matter your body shape, your body type, whatever it is. It doesn't matter your starting point. Anyone can get to a resemblance of understanding parkour or whatever their endeavor is in their life. So yeah, I don't take anything away from yourself. That,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because you're not the best, that you've got this following and you don't feel that you deserve it. Well, you do deserve it. You absolutely. The fact that you've got multiple videos that have gone viral shows that, and it shows, yeah, like I said, that you are a really nice person. I think you're an amazing guy, and yeah, I wish you all the best for the future, 100%.
I'll tell you one thing. That is one thing that's been very fulfilling in the last year or so. I've had a lot of people contact me who are heavy set, who might have a dad bod, or don't feel comfortable getting into parkour because of that reason.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of messages about it, and I'm luckily able to help people to get into it. So I know where gyms are. I know who has a community. Yeah. And I've been able to message people and help them to feel comfortable going out. So I've had like 4 or 5 people in the last year. I had more than that, but 4 or 5 people in the last year that took it seriously, started losing weight, started getting healthy. And it's an amazing thing to be able to see their progress. Like, I follow them and I watch what they're doing, and I actually recently met one of them in Texas last year, and it was such a cool moment to meet somebody who I was able to inspire a little bit. That actually brought me so much joy, and that's one of my main reasons why I want to continue to build a following, is that way I can connect with people who have that same feelings. That way they can find joy in the thing that I find joy in.
100%. Yeah, definitely. If you can, like you said, you've had a few that have thing. If you can spark that, ignite that flame in one person, then you've done your job. And the fact that you've done it with multiple people already, again, like I said, you resonate with people, and because you are a nice guy, and you show everything, and even in your videos, you show when you fail. You show the attempts and the attempts and the attempts and the attempts, and it's not just every time I get it right and I get it perfect. It is this process of, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, and then we hit it, and then we keep hitting it, till we can't not hit it.
Yeah.
And I think that's in life. Like, a lot of people want that. Right, I need to get to Z. What's the quickest way? Well, most of the time, there isn't a quick way. You've got to go through A, B, C, D. You've got to hit every single point to get to Z. And even then, you're back to the start. You've got to do A1, A2, all the way up to Z1. And it just keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. We are closing in massively on time now.
I got you.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Do you want to give everyone your socials again, and then I'll cut you loose?
Yes, it is Gorilla-man _, so the little line underneath, not the dash. Gorilla-man _ parkour.aim. AIM.
Brilliant. And I do usually ask this of someone, and I am going to, but it'll have to be a quick one. What advice would you give someone that is getting into parkour now, or is thinking about doing that?
It's okay to try and fail. You can fail. It's not gonna mess you up at all. I mean, unless you really fail hard, then that sucks. I'm sorry. But it's okay to fail. And failure is the best teacher you can have, because once you fall or you don't get something, you can analyze it yourself and figure out how to succeed next time. Because that's my favorite thing to do is, if I can't get something, I'll mess up. I won't get it. And it's okay. Just keep working towards it, and it'll eventually happen. And that's the same way with life, honestly. Failure is the best thing you can have.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for coming on the podcast today, Eric, or the Gorilla Man. And we'll see you soon, everybody.